Welcome back to another episode of the Be the CEO of Your Life and Business podcast. Today, Amy and I are talking about a topic that's really important for us because we've spoken before about how environment is everything. And I was listening to Ed Milet's podcast this morning, and he talked about environment in the context of the people you surround yourself with. And Amy and I have been talking about this week, because Amy's going on vacation next week, talking about, not feeling like you have to take a vacation from your life, right? So we want to talk today about building an environment that you don't need to take a vacation from.
Yes.
And we had a shift in our business over the last couple of weeks that changed the environment a little bit for the better. And it was really just like a glaring example, at least to me, of how the people you surround yourself with, like Ed Milet said this morning, they make your environment. It's everything.
Yes.
So for Amy and I, since we're building this business, we're in charge of the environment that we're building. So we are trying to build an environment that we don't need to take a vacation from. And do you want to talk a little bit about what you said about your mindset shift and going on vacation next week?
So first of all, I love when these podcast episodes drop around this time of year, because we always try to talk about like vacationing. Because for employees and for business owners, it is like, I don't know, it's such a big topic that is worth discussing, because I can distinctly see a difference year over year from my mindset of going into my vacation. So I remember like 2020, absolute disaster, right? Before we were even business owners, we weren't even in partnership together. And 2020 was just a complete disaster. There was a global pandemic, right? 2021, I was excited to be on vacation with my family, because I was like riding off of the high and the momentum of Laura and I starting this business, and we were picking up speed in a way that I was like blown away by. So I had my laptop, I had my journal, I had my notebooks, I had everything with me. And I distinctly remember telling Joey, because this was right after we had Joseph, I was like, you got to go take the kids for a walk. I need to be, here. I need to get some work done. And like, I kind of like worked almost every day on that vacation. And then the following year, last year, 2022, I had the real estate closing from hell during that time. And the agent I was working with was so I don't know, just awful. And I remember coming back from vacation and saying to Laura, like, we need to do an episode about boundaries when you're on vacation. And honestly, it was because in 2022, I needed that break. There was something just, we were hustling and grinding so hard in that first year and a half, that I just really needed a break. And I needed time to just be with my family and literally close off as best as I can from everything else that I have going on. And this one agent and one deal, I was beside myself. I was texting Laura, like, this is unbelievable. This woman is crazy.
So awful.
It was awful. And then leading up to, we've had a crazy month of June, but leading up to this vacation, I said to Laura the other day, I feel like I have a mindset shift that I'm excited to go on vacation, but it's not because I can't wait to take a break from the office.
Right.
There's something so different about this year where I'm just excited to spend time with my husband, spend time with my kids, and have the four of us just be like a little unit and do our thing. We always go to the beach. We're really excited about it. But I am not like looking forward to being away from the office, not in a bad way. Like I just need to be here and like I can't leave my desk, but in the sense of I'm just loving what we're doing right now. And I'm like obsessed with the team that we're building. And I'm like really looking forward to some really exciting stuff that's happening over the summer. So I'm just happy to be here.
That is a huge mindset shift.
Huge.
So you don't need a vacation from your business, right? Like it's nice to have like a mental break. But you're not excited about your week off, and it's not really off because you'll get emails, you'll get calls and stuff. And also you'll be with the kids.
Please. It's a trip. It's not a vacation.
you're excited about spending time with your family, not because you need to escape from work.
Yes.
Right.
And also because, I think I've heard this for so many years that vacation is a mindset. And I don't remember who says it, but I know Grant Cardone has had a lot to say about this topic in particular, like building a life you love, building something that you don't have to escape from, that a vacation is merely just like, okay, you get time off, you get to go somewhere. My mindset last year was more of like, I can't wait to turn off my emails and close my phone down. And now this year I'm like, all right, so if I block out a little time in the morning, I can get a little bit of this done. And maybe when Joseph naps, I can do a little bit more, not because I want to just be sitting there and doing work all the time, but my kids don't need me every single second of the day.
Right.
Okay. My husband does not need me. We have tons of things to do down there that we don't need to be on top of each other every 5 seconds, but it's also not with like the overwhelming dread of like, oh, I have to answer this while I'm on vacation.
Right.
That's a big mindset shift. And I know that like it took a lot of work to get to this point. And the biggest factor that has affected this is the environment we're building.
Yes. And it's a huge, huge thing. And we've spoken about it before in the context of where we were previously, because it was not a good environment and it was not an environment that Amy and I would like to continue to build. Right. So we wanted that when we were there, we wanted to go on vacation to escape from work. Like that was totally our mindset. We wanted to get out of there and escape whenever we could. Right. Now it's more, and I said to you that like, I don't really care about going on vacation. It's fun. Like I enjoy it. But like when we went to Florida in March, I had that contract negotiation going on. I was working at night. I was working but it was fun. I don't know. It was tiring, but I didn't feel like I needed to run away.
I actually remember you saying that it was more stressful to be in Florida and dealing with that at that time than it would have been to just be here.
Yeah.
It was almost like the vacation was the condition or the circumstance that made it even more difficult because you were like, I'm torn, like I want to be here with my family, but I have this thing that's going on. And it's just like a tug of war almost.
I feel like everything is like intertwined. Like I don't feel like I need to run away on vacation to escape from our office. And it really does have everything to do with what we're building here. So if you think about it, whether you are a business owner or an employee or whatever your circumstances are, do you feel like you need a vacation from your life? Because that's the opposite of what we are building. I don't want to be in the situation anymore where I feel like I have to escape from work. I need a vacation.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm mentally tired, especially right now with everything we have going on, but I don't feel like I need to run away. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it also applies because, we're also big believers that your life is one thing, right? Like your life includes your personal life, your work life, your everything life. Okay. Life is just life. So by vacationing, are you running away from the things that are happening in your life right now? Are you running away from the people that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis? And if that's the case, we also think it's important to know that there's ways to work on your day-to-day environment so that you don't feel like you have to run away from it. Like, run towards a vacation because you want to go to Aruba for 7 days. I mean, have at it. Like, no, we're not saying that you shouldn't be excited to be on a vacation.
Right.
We're saying that it's a mindset shift of, are you excited for the vacation or are you excited to be leaving what you have in your life at home and your business and what have you? Are you excited to leave that? I don't know. I feel like people don't ask that question very often of themselves.
Yeah. And I think the other question people need to ask themselves if they're evaluating their environment is, who's in your environment, right? So Ed Milet was talking this morning about, do you surround yourself with people that are stuck in the past, right? That are always rehashing old stories and talking about old circumstances and basically living in the past and bringing you back there? Or are you surrounded by people who are in the present, talking about the future and excited about, things to come going forward rather than living behind? And what were you just saying about what Chris Downing used to say?
Chris Downing, who's one of our favorite people on the entire planet.
Yeah.
He used to give the visualization of if you're driving in a car, Your past is your rear view mirror, and it's small for a reason, because it's behind you. You're not going back there. You don't need to see any more of it, but your front windshield is big because there's possibility. And it's like the greatest visualization. If you ever get trapped in this thought cycle of like constantly rehashing the past is supposed to be really small compared to the big, wide open windshield that you have ahead of you.
That for me is such an amazing visualization. So do you surround yourself with people who are constantly looking in the rearview mirror, or do you surround yourself with people who are driving forward and looking through the windshield?
Yes.
Because if you are surrounded by, and look, it doesn't mean you don't need to sit down and cut everybody out of your life.
No,
that's not what this is about. But if you have people in your environment, even in your day-to-day work environment, like you can't always control, like we're not always business owners. No. We had no control over who, was hired and who was like that. It was what it was.
Right.
And so, if you are in an environment where you are not in control of the people that are in your immediate space, do things that you can do to control your interactions with them. If you can, like maybe limit your interactions, or try to change the course of the discussion with them, or try to change the energy by changing you. There are things that you can do. It doesn't mean you have to go cut everybody out of your life immediately.
No, this could be, and this, I think we've talked about this before, but this could be an entirely different podcast episode series about you being in control of the interactions that you have with other people. And like, you have to take people for face value and say to yourself, okay, if I'm not going to change them, how do I change me? Right. So if you are, working, you're an employee of a company, and there's just people on your shift or people in your department that you don't really get along with, sure, you can limit your interactions with them. Or you could do the harder work, which is, let me figure out how I can make this better. Let me figure out how I can, like bridge a gap between me and that person that, Sally at the water cooler who gossips all the time. It's like, maybe you can change something. Maybe you can be a positive influence. Maybe you can show her like, I'm not really into gossiping. It's great. I hope this all works out, and kind of just work around those issues. Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just always be like, oh, she gossips, I don't like her, and like be gone with you. Right. But the harder thing to do is to put in the work to try and make the environment that much more happy and positive and bearable, really. Now, even if it's not positive, it's just bearable, because that work comes from you.
And when you put in the work like that, you discover the direction that you want to go in.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about surrounding ourselves with certain types of people that are a more positive environment, it doesn't have to be somebody that's in person with you. A huge part of that, at least for me, in building my environment at work and outside of work, has been exposing myself to people like Mel Robbins, Ed Milet. Like, there are numerous people that you can listen to on YouTube. You can read their books. Like, just because they're not physically in your space doesn't mean that they're not in your environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you are the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? I don't think spending the most time with means that I have to be sitting right next to Laura.
Right.
We're going to turn into each other at one point at this rate. But truly, like, if you think about the people that the information you consume, or like, are you a news person? I know Laura is. I get all my news filtered from Laura. If you're a news person and you watch that and there's doom and gloom all the time, I don't even know if it's doom and gloom anymore on the news, but like, it's like sensational stuff, right? That's probably the type of life that you're going to start to create for yourself, because you're absorbing that. That is part of your life.
But I have had time periods where I had to cut myself off.
Oh, yeah.
From the news, because it was making me so stressed.
COVID was a perfect example. I could not turn on the news because that environment was like anxiety provoking for me.
And you're not in person with those people.
No, but it affects you.
But you're exposing yourself to that information and whatever you're watching. So especially in this world that we're living in, where we are connected 24/7 to something, even if it's what you are watching on TV with the news, like, it makes a difference. So if you need to change your environment in that way, stop surrounding yourself with the news. I've literally had time periods where I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can't look at it right now.
Yeah.
Because it's too negative and it makes me sick.
Oh, like election years.
Oh,
Give me a break.
Nope.
Forget it. Nope. I'll read it. I'll listen to audiobooks all day. I'm
done. It's like, I know
So I
who
don't
I'm
have to
voting
hear
for.
that.
I don't need to see all this negativity on the news. I'm
Goodbye.
not turning it on.
Yes.
See ya.
But when it comes to the people that are in your life, right? You can't just turn off the
Right.
people in your life.
Right.
You can't choose who your coworkers are. You can't always choose. I mean, yes, you can choose who your employees are, but like, is it a basis to can somebody because they show up and they're grumpy one day? Probably not.
Right.
Okay. There's got to be something else going on. But it comes down to you. Like, how are you going to influence that environment? How are you going to make those changes in your mindset so that what you're walking into or what you're dealing with on a day-to-day doesn't feel like something that you need to escape? What is that amazing visualization that we've talked about? I think Mel Robbins did it recently, talking about how the circle of people that you surround yourself with can actually become a cage.
Yes,
if it's the wrong
totally
people.
Mel
I think it was Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
It was another great visualization. Like, if you think about the circle of friends that you have and the circle of people or the coworkers that you surround yourself with, it can become a cage and it could trap you in where you are if you allow it to. Like, if you take on all of the personalities or the characteristics that you don't like it can become suffocating. And there's also something to be said too, that if it really is just not the right fit for you, it's just not the right fit for you. And you need to,
and that's fine.
And that's fine too. But if you're not, in a position where you can just up and leave wherever you are, and you have to have some stability in, what you're doing at the current moment, then think about these tips of really evaluating, okay, what's my mindset? All right, how can I change my interactions with these people? And what am I running away from? What am I really upset about? And start asking those questions.
And it's okay if you sit down and to think about this and you realize that there are people that you want to back away from a little bit. We all have people in our lives that are there because they've been there forever. And it doesn't mean that they should still be there.
Right.
So it doesn't mean you have to cut people off or just completely like cold turkey, stop talking to them.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody like that in your immediate circle that you're with all the time, and that is a big part of your environment, think about how you can maybe distance yourself a little bit. Because there are people that are there just because they've been there for a long period of time.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that they bring you positive energy.
No,
right?
It's just something familiar. Something else that I want to bring up too, because Laura and I have been in an interviewing process right now. And one of the things that she and I agreed upon, which we've basically narrowed down, is that the energy you bring to an interview is so important for us.
Yep.
Because if you don't bring a certain energy of enthusiasm, initiative, personality, teamwork, those are the qualities that we're looking for. Because truthfully, for doing this so long, we could train anybody to do anything that we need them to do. But the person that you are, the energy that you bring, we have come to realize just how important that is in our business and the culture that we have and the environment that we're building. And we will not negotiate from that.
And so we hired somebody recently who she hasn't started yet, but we interviewed her. She left and Amy and I looked at each other and we were like,
is she for real?
She had such positive energy.
Yes.
And we were just so floored by it. We couldn't believe it. We said, okay, there's no question.
No question at all. Yes.
We love her.
Showed up with the energy that we felt was going to match what we are building.
Right.
And it's going to be another key player in our business that we don't have to run away from, because we're going to enjoy being around her and training her and showing her the ropes. And it's just not going to be something that we need to flee from. Right. We're folding in somebody particular. And that's why I said that it's important to us in this process. So we're folding it in particular to who we want as our team, who we want as our environment.
Yeah, it is literally so important. So if you're in a situation where you just feel like you need a change, really think about your environment, who you surround yourself with, and are you living right now in a life that you need to run away from?
Right.
Or have you created an environment for yourself that you don't need a vacation from? It's not to say that you can't go away and enjoy yourself. Like, that's totally not the point of this conversation. I love going away. I love spending a couple of days with the kids, taking some time off, but it's not because I'm running away from my
life.
It's not because I'm running away from work or my life or anything like that. Like, it's just part of life. Vacationing, working, it's all part of life. So build an environment and a life that you don't need a vacation from. We hope these tips were helpful. We thank you for spending time with us, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.